So today we're going to discuss about graphing linear functions and identifying their key features. For the first example, I am going to use y equals 2/3 x plus 1. So for the key features, we are going to concentrate on the following key features. We are going to look at the y-intercept, we're going to look at the x-intercept, and we are going to look at the slope, whether it's steep or less steep. So please remember that for the x-intercept, you would know that it's the x-intercept if the y value is 0. For the y-intercept, you are going to know it's the y-intercept if the x value is a 0. Also understand, x-intercept is a point that must be found on the x-axis. Y-intercept is a point that's going to be found on the y-axis. And for the slope, we are going to look at steep, and steep is whenever the slope is greater than 1. Less steep is whenever the slope is less than 1. Just a note, negative sign does not affect the steepness or less steepness of a line. The negative slope is only for the direction. Negative goes down, positive goes up. Let us now begin the graphing. So we always start with the y-intercept, which is why sometimes it's called as your starting point. So the y-intercept is on positive 1. So you're at positive 1 right now. Second step, you're going to look at your slope and you're going to branch it out into two possible ways. So this is 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3, but then the fact that this is positive, you want the signs of the numerator and the denominator to be the same. So it's either positive, positive, or negative, negative. And again, these two are the same. They're going to give you the same positive slope because same signs will give you positive slope. So let's try this. So you will have this as your rise, you will have this as your run, this is your rise, and this is your run. So let us do both just for the purposes of our discussion. Let's do the positive first. Positive rise means go up 2. Positive run means go to the right 3. Your point is there. You can already stop there, get your straight edge, and connect the dots. However, again, since we are discussing this and we're learning, we are going to do this other one as well. So let's do a negative rise of 2. So negative 2 is go down 2. Negative run of 3 is go to the left 3. As you would notice, these 3 dots will lie on the same exact line. So you will get your ruler and you will connect the dots. And that is your line. You're going to name your line. You're going to say that your line is y equals 2/3 x plus 1. Okay, now let us start identifying our key features. I want to start with my y-intercept because it's so easy to spot. It's that. Y-intercept is 1. However, there's another way to name it, which is by ordered pairs, which is 0, 1. And as you can see, just to emphasize, the value of the x is 0 on the y-intercept. So let's now look at the x-intercept, and that's your x-intercept right there. To do this, you cannot just eyeball and, say, okay, it's at 1.5, negative 1.5. You're not so sure, so what we're going to do is really accurately do this by solving. So to solve for the x-intercept, you're going to set your y as 0. So you're going to copy down your equation. And you're going to set it to 0. So 0 equals 2/3 x plus 1. And again, y is 0 on the x-intercept. That's the reason why you're setting it to 0. So how to do this is you're going to remove the positive 1, and that can be done by the 0 pair, which is a negative 1. So as a shortcut, we can just move this to the other side because you learned that if you do the 0 pair on here, which is a -1, you do that to the left and to the right, it's going to be a negative 1 here. That's already a pattern that you have established, and so we can just do the shortcut and move those numbers but change the sign when you move them to the other side. And so now you're left with 2/3 x, and the way to remove the 2/3 is to multiply it by its inverse, which is times 3 over 2. Okay. Whatever you do to the right, you do to the left. So I also multiply this by 3 out of 2. I would just inserting that there. All right. So this side now becomes, so this turns to a 1. This turns to a 1. And now you just have 1x. There's a 1 there that I don't have to write anymore. But please understand that they didn't turn to 0. They turned to a 1. And 1 is there. I don't have to write it down. Negative 1 times 3 out of 2 is negative 3 out of 2. So that is your x-intercept. Now, let's look at this. And I think that is a match because this turned to a decimal is a negative 1.5. Now, to show this to you using technology, just to confirm our answer, we are going to do the technology. I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay, so you're here. I want you to go to your home button, which is right here. I want you to get a new document, do not save, and I want you to go to graph. On there, I want you to start typing your equation, which is control divide first. You will have control divide, and you will type in 2 on top. Use your cursor to go to the bottom, and then make sure that you go and press that right arrow so that you can go to this spot right here. Press the X, and then plus 1. You're going to have a line right there. And what you want to get is the x-intercept, which is right here. If you're using the technology, you don't have to use calculations. You just have to press menu because whatever you need is on menu. You're going to go and press analyze graph. And under analyze graph, you have learned that x-intercept's another name is 0. So another name for x-intercept is 0. So press that 0. Zeroable function is x-intercept. If you're going to this part right here, you want to put that dotted line to your left, somewhere here. Just estimate a little bit to your left. Click, release, drag, and then click again. There you go. It gives you negative 1.5, which confirms because this is approximately at negative 1.5. Now, let's look at this again. How would you know if the negative 1.5 is the same as negative 3 out of 2? Well, this is how we do it. So you want to keep your graph, but you want to open another document or another file. The way to do that is by pressing Control Doc and get to the calculator. And you're here. So this is your document. It's still there. But now you're going to use your calculator just to check if negative 3 over 2 will give you negative 1.5. So let's type negative and then control divide 3 out of 2. And you want to press the right arrow so that the cursor is here on the side. And then you're going to press menu, number, and convert to decimal. So when you convert to decimal and press enter, you would see that negative 3 out of 2 is the same as 1.5. Okay, so going back to here, let's just label. Okay, so this is your x-intercept. And the labeling for that is going to be negative 1.5 comma 0. Again, to emphasize, on the x-intercept, the y value is 0. So, we are done with y-intercept, x-intercept, but we have not yet done whether the slope is steep or less steep. So, let's look at our slope. 2/3. 2/3, you'll know, is less than 1. So, you're less steep, and it's positive because it says positive. So, example number 2 is y equals negative 2x minus 3. Let's try to graph it. Before we graph, we are going to also identify the key features. Again, x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. On the x-intercept, y must be 0. Y-intercept, x must be 0. And for the slope, we're going to analyze whether it's steep or less steep. Again, another reminder, the negative sign does not affect the steepness of the slope. It's only affecting the direction. Negative goes down, positive goes up. Okay, so let's start graphing. So negative 3 y-intercept is here. So put the mark, put the dot. And then step 2, you need your rise over run. But the 2 has to have a denominator of 1. The reason why we need that denominator is because I need my rise and run. So this is going to be 2 over 1, 2 over 1. However, since the sign is negative, my signs here must be different. Either positive, negative, or negative, positive. Either of the two will do. So this is your rise, and that is your run. This is your rise, that's your run. All right. This is a little bit kind of difficult to do because if I do my negative 2, positive 1, then I will have to go down and there's a little space. So I will focus on this one right here. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 1 to the left because it's negative. I'm going to go ahead and connect the dots and that'll be my line. Do not forget to name your line, so that's y equals negative 2x minus 3. And the coordinates of the y-intercept are negative 3 comma 0. Again, the y value, I'm sorry, this is 0, my bad, 0, negative 3. The x value is going to have to be 0 because you're on the y-intercept. So that's your y-intercept and this is your x-intercept, but we need to solve it. So x-intercept is when y is 0, so set that to 0, equals negative 2x minus 3. Move the 3 to the other side and that's going to become a positive 3. Negative 2x equals negative 2x. Divide that by negative 2. Divide this by negative 2 and x is equal to negative 3 out of 2, which is remarkably the same as the first one that we got. That's a coincidence. So anyways, so this one right here is said to be your x-intercept, which has the coordinates of negative 3 out of 2, comma x. I'm sorry, comma 0. All right. Okay, so slope. Is it steep or less steep? And the answer is 2 is bigger than 1, so it is steep. Again, the negative sign only affects the direction. This line, as you can see, is going down. So let me go ahead and show you how to practice again in turning this into a decimal. Okay, so just to practice a little bit on technology, if you have a decimal, guys, let's say you have a negative 1, a negative 1.5. Let's change that to a fraction this time. So menu, number, and then, oh, my bad. So, okay, let's click. So menu, number, and then this time approximate to fraction. So vice versa, we're from decimal going to fraction. So click on approximate to fraction, click enter, and it will go back. So I hope you learned a lot today, and that's how you change fractions to decimals, and that is how you graph and identify key features of a linear function.